Yay!
Don't get me going.
Too late.
You're already gone. Good morning and welcome to Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church's in-person and online worship. Whether today is your first time here or you've been coming for years, we're so glad that you are with us. My name is Rick Kimmel. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm serving as this morning's worship associate. We are growing a community that transforms lives through the power of love. Our mission calls us to celebrate diversity, encourage spiritual growth, and promote social responsibility while we travel on and care for the earth. A special welcome to those at home who are joining us on Zoom today. If you're attending for the first time, please go to our website and fill out the welcome card so we can know more about you. I have two announcements this morning. One is from the Social Justice Committee. It says, "The Giving Tree." Thank you to those who have adopted gift tags for the Social Justice Giving Tree. Please remember to bring your donated gifts to church by next Sunday, December 22nd. If you have questions, please see Mary Michaels. And the second concerns circle dinners. And their signups are closing. This is your very last chance to sign up. Please follow the link in Friday's A2U2 news. Now we invite you all to take this opportunity to silence your cell phones so that we can be fully present to one another. After the service, please grab a cup of coffee or tea in the kitchen window, that's the inside window, and stay for conversation or head down to the end of the long hallway to join a group for the brown bag lunch. Those on Zoom may stay on and connect with one another. And now let us center our hearts and our minds with the ringing of the chimes.
Good morning. We made it. For those I haven't met before, my name is Reverend Tara. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the minister here at Allen Avenue UU Church, A2U2 for short. This morning, we find ourselves already at the third Sunday in Advent, a season of deepening spiritual preparation for what's to come, a time of befriending the dark, a season of endings and beginnings. Our worship services this month are focused on reminders for these new beginnings, words to anchor us as we approach this new year and this new start. The reminders from the last two services, weeks 1 and 2, where you are a blessing and we can't go alone. This week's reminder, do the good that is yours to do. After the time for all ages and lamplighting ritual this morning, our children and youth will join Emily down the long hallway for an RE session where they'll work on their nativity video that I hope might be ready to share with you all next Sunday, fingers crossed. You know, that kind of creative endeavor is touch and go. Here in the sanctuary, we will explore what it looks like to discern our particular callings in this world. Those places, in the words of Frederick Buechner, where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. There are days when the world can feel like it's crumbling. There are days I doubt I can make any difference at all. I ask myself, what could these two hands do? What could this one voice say? May we be shaken free of our own immobilization and self-doubt, reminded that we are not called to fix everything, that we are simply called to do the good that is ours to do. With hope in our hearts and fire in our bones, let us arrive here together. Come and know that you are welcome. You are joyfully called to worship.
As we light our sanctuary chalice this morning, those joining on Zoom are invited to light a chalice or candle near you to connect us more deeply with one another. Teacher, the crowd asked, what should we do? If you have 2 shirts, give one away. Hold on to hope. Live like we belong to one another. Speak the truth. Look for love. Do the good that is yours to do. Carry the flame.
We light our community candle this morning in recognition of our global community. This past week, as the Assad regime fell in Syria, thousands of people were freed from torture prisons and reunited with their loved ones. As we bear witness to moments of liberation across our world, we also bear witness to the pain of those whose liberation has yet to come. Will you take a breath with me? I'd now like to invite forward Lauren and Julia, possibly some tiny little ones too, who will light our Advent wreath.
In a weary and worn world, how do we begin again? Where do we start?
Let us start small. Let us begin with what is right in front of us. Let us do the good that is ours to do, and let us do it with joy.
Yes, let us begin with joy.
Today we light the candles of hope, peace, and joy. May these lights remind us of what could be. May these lights inspire action.
May the warmth of these lights fill us with joy. May it be so.
fitting that our opening hymn this morning is Hope is a Candle. It's not in your hymnal, it's new, so we're going to go on a little singing adventure together, because why not? It'll come up on your screen, hopefully. Hope is a candle. Hope is also how we use technology sometimes. So Dale will play it through once so you can hear the tune, and then you are invited to rise in body or in spirit as we sing together. There we go. This morning I have a parable to share with you. This parable was told by Jesus, a teacher a very long time ago, who taught lessons of love and compassion. When he spoke to his followers, his students, it was often about love and compassion and about the great unfolding mystery that we call love, that some people call God, and that we have about 2 million other names for. Sometimes these lessons were kind of confusing and hard, or just really simple but sort of hard to wrap your head around somehow still. So Jesus often used stories to make his point. I do that too sometimes. These stories are called parables. This is one of the parables. It's about a shepherd. Can anyone tell me what a shepherd is? Yes. A person who takes care of sheep. Excellent. So the thing about shepherds in the time of this story is that they didn't have things like, a fancy pen or a nice corral for the sheep. There was no fence to build a big space for the flock to graze. Instead, shepherds would have to take their flock out into the hills so they could graze and fill their bellies. But out in the hills, there were all sorts of critters who could harm them, hence the shepherds. At the beginning of each day, the shepherd took all 100 of their sheep. Can you imagine 100 sheep in here? The noises and the smells. Can you imagine trying to corral 100 sheep? It's like trying to corral all of you. So one day the shepherd went out to tend to their flock, and they counted when they got home to make sure that all the sheep had come home. And they only counted 99. Issue. One was missing. So they did what those of us who struggle with math do. They counted again to make sure it wasn't their mistake. And then they counted again, and probably again. And it's true, there were only 99 of the sheep. And even though it was cold and dark, and the critters that can harm sheep can also harm shepherds, so it was sort of dangerous, they decided to leave the 99 sheep who were safe at home, who were safe and sound and warm, and go out into the hills to find that one lost sheep who was in danger. When Jesus told his followers this story, he was trying to make 2 points. First, that the great, huge, unfolding mystery that we call love, that some call God, loves each of us so much that he, she will always go out to find the lost and the broken and the sad and the needy and bring them into the fold of care. The second thing that Jesus was trying to teach his followers was that we are also, as people of faith, called to be like that love, to be like that shepherd. We want to be love's partner and love's helper, the hands and feet of love, which means as shepherds, when everyone else is safe, we are called to notice the few who are not, who are in danger, and to go out into the cold and the dark and be with them. So this morning, we're going to continue to think about what the lost sheep in our own lives are and how we might become better shepherds.
Momentarily, some of us will be leaving the sanctuary to go to RE. But first, I would like to invite our lamplighter, Xavier, up. A lamplighter is entrusted to transfer the light of the sanctuary chalice to the lamp and then go forth to RE, where they will light the lamp there, the chalice there. I invite those going to religious education to follow the lamplighter as we carry the flame, expanding our sacred space.
Would you join me in the spirit of prayer? Loving Spirit, there are days when the world feels like it is on fire. There are days when we are inundated with bad news, days when we are up to our eyes in grief, days when we have reached the end of our rope. On these days, holy love, we reach for you. On these days, we return to this sanctuary. On these days, we light candles, we sing, we fight tooth and nail to hold on to hope. So in an effort to release the fears that trap us, we name them and we give them to you. Hear our prayers for wars that cannot find an end, for children who cannot find food, for teenagers who cannot find peace. Holy love, draw near. For people who are lonely, spending their holidays in the hospital, for the tender challenge of every new beginning. Divine love, draw near. And as you draw near, remind us that we too can make a difference. When the weight of the world overwhelms us, remind us that faith looks like giving your second coat away. Infuse us with that hope. Swat away our insecurities, drown out our doubts, silence the fears that cage us, and remind us that change always comes from small acts of great love. So with hope in our hearts, we roll up our sleeves. With hope in our hearts, we strive to do the good that is ours to do. With hope in our hearts, we pray. Blessed be.
Now is the time in our service when we engage in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts support the ministries of this congregation and our work in the broader community. Each week, 1/3 of our offering is given away to a local nonprofit organization doing work to advance our shared values in the world. This month's Share the Plate recipient, however, is a little different. In December, we share our offering with the A2U2 Ministers Discretionary Fund, which provides confidential emergency financial assistance for church members and friends. You can learn more through the e-news or by asking Reverend Tara, and can access the fund by contacting Reverend Tara directly. Donations can be made now as the basket is passed through the donate button on our website, or if you are a member on Breeze, remembering to make note that your gift is for Share the Plate. If you are visiting us for the first time this morning, please know that your presence is your gift to us. At this time, our offering will be collected and gratefully received.
Did you get a piece of paper and a little sticker? Excellent. We're going to do a craft. It's going to take about half a second. Please take your piece of paper and flip the part in your right hand 180 degrees. And then attach the two ends and stick them together with your dot. You see what does it look kind of like mine, but red? Yeah. That's it. We'll talk about this later. Don't overthink it.
Our reading this morning is by Parker Palmer, who says, "Here's a brief meditation on life on the Mobius strip. A curious concept, to be sure, but no more curious than life itself. The curious object in your hand, or maybe up on your screen, is a Mobius strip. If you take your index finger and trace what seems to be the outside surface, you may do that now if you care to, you suddenly find yourself on what seems to be the inside surface. Continue along what seems to be the inside surface, and you suddenly find yourself on what seems to be the outside surface. I need to keep saying what seems to be, because the Mobius strip has only one side. What looks like its inner and outer surfaces flow into each other seamlessly, co-creating the whole. Now, the first time I saw a Mobius strip, I thought, amazing. That's exactly how life works. Whatever is inside of us continually flows outward, helping to form or deform the world, depending on what we send out. Whatever is outside us continually flows inward, helping to form or deform us, depending on how we take it in. Bit by bit, we in our world are endlessly remade in this eternal inner-outer exchange. Much depends on what we choose to put into the world from within ourselves, and much depends on how we handle what the world sends back to us. As Thomas Merton said, we don't have to adjust to the world. We can adjust the world. Which brings me to a question that's close to the heart of my spiritual life. How can I travel the Mobius strip so keenly aware of this constant co-creative exchange of the inner and the outer, that I can make choices about it, about what I send out and what I take in ways that are life-giving for the world, for other people, and for me.
In his book, A Hidden Wholeness, Parker Palmer reflects on the mathematical phenomenon that is the Mobius strip. He explains that if you take a finger and trace what seems to be the outside, you find yourself on the inside because there is only one side. And it continues inside, outside, inside, outside. There is no inside or outside. These two sides continually flow into each other, co-creating each other in the endless cycle of a form that has only one side. In tracing the strip, Palmer realized that so it is with our lives. Whatever is inside of us continually flows outward to help form or deform the world. We are, of course, in relationship with the world as it is. Perhaps we are surviving it, working hard to make it better, or learning to live with it in harmony. Perhaps trying to find meaning or to find God in all of it. Regardless, the relationship between our inner world and the world outside of us has a lot to do with our callings. Our callings are what draw us out of the holy core of who we are into the outer world to shape it for the better in the form of love and justice, mercy and beauty. And of course, we do not act in isolation. We form one another and are formed by the communities we are part of. And we are also formed by the needs of the times we are living in. What is unfolding around us, what feels urgent or unattended to. I have had more conversations than I could possibly count with people both in this congregation and out in the community, in Unitarian Universalism and beyond, over the last 6 weeks or so, about what we should be doing to prepare for Inauguration Day and to respond to the needs that will follow. I ask myself this question on a daily basis. I talk about it with my UU minister colleagues as well as local colleagues across traditions and ministry settings. Just this past week, I found myself around a table one afternoon and that same evening around a circle in a church sanctuary with ordained and lay people of faith across denominations in the Portland area wrestling with this same question. How do we, as people of faith, answer the call to justice in these times? One of the answers that emerged from the wisdom of the group is that first, we have to listen to what our call is. Personally, individually, and as a community and sub-communities, as a congregation. What is the Spirit calling our congregation to engage with? I look for an answer to that question by noticing where I sense energy emerging in the congregational system. For us here at A2U2, I've noticed about 4 pockets of energy, of course shaped by my own interests and the things I happen to be involved in. One is the call to become trans-inclusive and begin to organize and build infrastructure for the work of Pink Haven, supporting trans families relocating to Maine from unsafe legislative states. Another is the call to connect more deeply with the land and create spaces to process climate grief. Another is a call to welcome the stranger by sponsoring new Mainer families through Family Promise. Another is the call to deepen relationships, support, and connection among and for the queer community across generations. which isn't to say this is all we can do or that we're limited to these areas. It is to say that these are pockets of energy here in this place that we have to notice and ask ourselves, is that perhaps evidence that we might be called to engage deeply here? At one of these organizing meetings this week, other congregations shared where they were noticing energy, perhaps a sense of call in their communities. First Parish is focused on homelessness and hosting the emergency shelter in their building. Gorham UCC is primarily focused on supporting Family Promise and engaging in immigrant rights. State Street UCC has their energy going into an immigrant shelter and a clothing closet. Cumberland UCC engages issues facing New Mainers, and they're focused on offering education about the threat of white Christian nationalism. The Methodist Church in Cape Elizabeth has a robust climate justice ministry. The Quakers are supporting partners in Cuba and engaging on the issue of gun safety. And the Portland Dharma Group has strong programming addressing the inner work of racial justice. St. Luke's Episcopal Church is working on feeding immigrant neighbors through a food pantry. Each of our congregations, each of these smaller communities within the larger Portland community is called differently, is called to different work in different ways, and we are too as individuals. We are called to individual things that are emerging out of what our spirit is drawn to, what our skills and our gifts are. The question of what should I do in the face of what's coming in response to what's happening is mostly answered by today's reminder. Do the good that is yours to do. Spend some time figuring out where the Spirit is moving in your life, in your heart. Get curious about it. It might not be where you expect. It might not be what you do for paid work, or it might be exactly how you already spend most of your waking hours. You may be surprised at how these times will stir up deep longings from your core that are desperately needed in this world. It's worth taking the time for reflection and discernment to really allow yourself to be pulled towards something that is right for you. What would it look like to pick a lane, to really commit to one area of healing and justice making, of doing good in collaboration with others, to do it with our whole hearts, to stay in that lane? Not every person or every community needs to take on every justice issue or area of need. What if we stopped digging our hole of impact an inch deep and a mile wide, and instead went an inch wide and a mile deep? What liberation might we tap into if we go to the depths, knowing that someone else is alongside us going a mile deep in the other direction and someone else on the other side, all around us as far as our eyes can see? What if? We live our lives on the Mobius strip. Whatever is inside us continually flows outward to help form or deform the world. And in turn, we are shaped and formed by all that is external. What is in you? What might flow out from your heart to meet this new beginning? One of the realities of living into a calling, at least for me, is that sometimes the world feels hostile to what I have to offer. And sometimes I don't feel equipped with the courageous compassion needed for the work at hand. We are, of course, here on earth together, and we show up to each moment as our imperfect human selves. It makes things awfully inconvenient. A few years ago, I came across an image in some Advent materials I was looking through with a picture of a manger and a little prayer that read, "Fourth trimester, newborn baby Jesus. It's cold and uncomfortable and too rough for your thin skin here on earth. Thank you for showing up like that. It makes the rest of us who feel a little thin-skinned ourselves know we are on the right track." The conditions will never be perfect for living into our callings. But the Christmas story, we're getting closer. The Christmas story to me is so refreshing because it reminds us that Jesus arrived in less than ideal conditions. And still, he pursued his calling to teach and heal and pray and speak out against the injustices of empire in his time. He allowed his calling to shape and guide his short life, and he was in turn changed by the people he served. For the shepherd, too, one pesky sheep goes rogue, yet tending their whole flock, that was the calling. Each sheep, the 99 and the one, shaped the shepherd, and the shepherd in turn shaped the well-being of the flock. Like the Mobius strip, that creative exchange of forming and being formed. And so, in honor of that exchange, that truth that we shape and are shaped by one another, we also choose to be accountable to one another and to support each other. This is why even if the good that is ours to do happens outside of this community, and for many of you, I know it does, through our work or a different group, we still come back to this place to fill our cup, to wrestle with our challenges, and to get quiet enough to listen for that still, small voice that calls us on. I pray that in the chapter that awaits us, we find our work, our inch of soil to dig, the work that is ours to do, our calling. And may these callings be a blessing this morning, today, and all the days to come. May it be so. Amen. Our closing hymn this morning is number 226 in your gray hymnal, "People Look East," and up on the screen. Dale will play it through once, and then you are invited to rise in body or spirit as we sing together. as we extinguish our chalice, and as you leave this place, may you have the wisdom to lean on one another. May you have the courage to hold on to hope, the compassion to do the good that is yours to do, and the confidence to trust that you are a blessing. In a world full of dead ends, Advent invites us to begin again. So start here. Start now. Start with love and begin again in the name of love, our new beginning. Our worship has ended and our service begins. Go in peace.